Hey guys, this is your host Thomas Irie here from On the Hop Podcast. Today, I have some bonus content for you guys. The bonus content we'll be covering today will be in the sport of boxing. In today's bonus segment, I'll be sharing my fight summary on the fight that took place last night in the sport of boxing between Naoya Inoue and Ramon Cardenas. So, last night in the sport of boxing, an epic fight that was produced on ESPN Top Rank where Naoya Inoue defeated Ramon Cardenas by technical knockout in the 8th round to successfully retain his undisputed junior featherweight titles in the sport of boxing last night. Well, my thoughts on the fight, this was an absolute cinema between Naoya Inoue and Cardenas. This was one hell of a fight. The best fight that took place in the sport of boxing during Cinco de Mayo weekend. We got a bad card between Ryan Garcia and Rolly Romero. All three of the fights really didn't sell it to me of what boxing was supposed to be about this weekend in the sport of boxing. Then the Canelo Alvarez and William Skull undisputed super middleweight fight did not live up to the hype, or that wasn't even an entertaining fight at all. And Naoya Inoue and Cardenas saved boxing this weekend. They put on one hell of a show in Las Vegas, Nevada, in the T-Mobile Arena. But these two came to fight. I mean, from round 1 to round 8 was an absolute cinema, absolute banger. And they were just fighting in the pocket, slugging it out. Both were fighting coming forward. There was no ducking the squabble, no ducking the smoke. These fighters were getting it on and giving fans around the world a show. And their huge counter shot that Cardenas landed on Naoya Inoue in the second round was insane. I thought Naoya Inoue was knocked out. I'm not going to lie. That was a picture-perfect counter shot. But Naoya Inoue weathered the storm. He overcame his adversity, came back after being dropped for the second time of his boxing career. And the longer the fight went on, that's when Naoya Inoue became more dangerous. He smelled blood in the water and took Cardenas to the deep waters and drowned him. And Naoya Inoue found a way to break down Cardenas by landing the power shots, delivering shots to the body. I thought he broke Cardenas' rib at one particular point, and he did score the knockdown, whether it was in the 6th round or the 7th round, which led to the technical knockout stoppage in the 8th round. And Naoya Inoue put on a show for Vegas. I mean, it's criminal. I mean, I know he's from Japan, and I know he fights in Japan, but it's criminal that we don't see this guy fight more often in the States, because he could be easily what Gervonta Davis is for the States. That's what he is in Japan. He could easily be a box office attraction and household name that casuals even know who Naoya Inoue is if he were to fight more times in the States. But man, Naoya Inoue was very sharp in this fight against Cardenas. He was very sharp. What I liked out of him was Naoya Inoue was fighting in different lateral movements, using his incredible footwork, fighting at different angles to frustrate Cardenas at times in this fight. He was landing the quick counter shots, did a great job winning the counter-punching battle and exchanges against Cardenas. He had an effective jab that kept Cardenas off of him as well. He was popping the jab, having a stiff jab coming down right down the middle to keep Cardenas off of him. And he overall landed a total of 49 punches during this fight last night against Cardenas. So Naoya Inoue had a very impressive performance, especially for somebody that was knocked down for the second time in his career, got back up off the canvas, overcoming adversity, and went and weathered the storm and didn't even change the game. I mean, he obviously changed the game plan offensively, but defensively, never retreated, never boxed off the back foot, kept coming forward, and gave fans one hell of a fight. They saved boxing this weekend, because if you take away that Naoya Inoue fight, that the sport of boxing took a massive L until Naoya Inoue saved this weekend in the sport of boxing. And he was even interviewed by the ESPN workers after the fight, saying, hey, you just had the fight of the weekend. And when Ryan Garcia was fighting this weekend and Canelo Alvarez was fighting this weekend, it was Naoya Inoue that saved the show for Cinco de Mayo weekend in the sport of boxing. But Cardenas, in my opinion, I'm going to give him his flowers here. He does deserve his credit. He did come to fight, because he could have just laid down and could have fought to survive 12 rounds with a top 3 pound-for-pound boxer in the sport of boxing. But he came to fight, and then he gave everything he had and nearly pulled off. He was in position to pull off one of the biggest upsets in recent memory in the sport of boxing. But honestly, Cardenas never ran away. He was fighting in the pocket the entire time, even after absorbing the powerful punches that the monster Naoya Inoue possesses in his bag and in his arsenal, the toolbox. I mean, he was going out on a shield. And Cardenas' story, I mean, don't get me wrong, as much as I watch boxing, it's hard to have these household names in these smaller weight classes because nobody wants to invest their time in the lower weight classes unless your name is Inoue, Inoue, Nakatani, Bam Rodriguez, Stephen Fulton, anybody under 130. Realistically, the sport of boxing doesn't care about unless you're those particular names that I just mentioned, possibly Nick Ball as well. But Cardenas is a fighter that I never watched live and have live performances, so I watched the tape of him building up for this fight, but his story was very incredible because he was fighting for his longtime trainer that passed away, and he wanted to bring back the titles back for home, the 4 undisputed titles, the WBC, the WBO, the WBA, and the IBF titles. All 4 titles lay on his former trainer's grave as showing appreciation that he became an undisputed champion. And unfortunately, he didn't get the job done, but he won over a lot of fans last night. And a lot of people are going to respect Cardenas moving forward in the boxing, his boxing career. One hell of a fight, and unfortunately didn't get the job done, but definitely an impressive performance and losing effort against Naoya Inoue last night in the sport of boxing. But Naoya Inoue now moves to 33 victories. He's now 33-0. 27 victories come away of knockout. Actually has scored 11 straight knockouts in world title fights. Do you know how elite you have to be in world title fights to get 11 straight knockouts? That is unprecedented. That is something that only all-time greats can pull off. And Naoya Inoue, when it's all said and done, if he can keep this up, he's going to go down as one of the all-time greats that we've seen from this generation. But that's why I said when I do cover Naoya Inoue, I've always said that this guy is the modern day Manny Pacquiao, because Manny Pacquiao could climb up and down weight classes, and the power and his skills will translate to these different weight classes, and he could still be an elite fighter. That's the modern day version of Manny Pacquiao, of what we're seeing in Naoya Inoue, because this guy is a 4-division world champion, has no problem going up and down weight, and he did admit last night that his ultimate goal and his final stopping point in moving up divisions will be at the featherweight division. So the fact that he could still do this, I gotta call him the modern day Manny Pacquiao. And no matter how you have your pound for pound list, you could have anybody that as long as they meet the criteria in your top 10. There's no debating that you have to have Alexander Usyk, Terrence Crawford, Naoya Inoue in your top 3. And I just gave it away of how I have my pound for pound list, but you gotta have Naoya Inoue in the conversation with Terrence Crawford and Alexander Usyk, because this man is a 2-time undisputed champion in 2 different weight classes, just like a Terrence Crawford and an Alexander Usyk. So the work that this man has done has been great, phenomenal. And like I said, Naoya Inoue is from Japan, but I don't know how they run things over there and why they have fights on weekdays and why they have it on weekdays and not during weekends over there. But man, we were spoiled last night to get this man back over in the States, because he put on one hell of a show and saved the sport for the weekend of what happened with the terrible fights. But future opponents that I have for Naoya Inoue to close out, there are a lot of future opponents that I would like to see Naoya Inoue fight. I mean, that are realistic. And we know that he has some fights lined up. He could possibly fight 2 more times by the end of 2025. I know he's got a fight lined up in September in Japan. He could possibly fight in Saudi Arabia in December. We'll see how that goes, and line himself up to do business with Turki Al-Sheikh. But some realistic opponents that I have for Naoya Inoue that I would love to see down the line. One would be Bam Rodriguez. I love me some Bam Rodriguez. I think he's a top 10 pound for pound star. For a lot of people who don't know, he's at the junior bantamweight division and 2-division world champion, top 10 pound for pound star in the sport today. I think Naoya Inoue and Bam Rodriguez are on a collision course to one day fight each other at the correct weight. And Bam Rodriguez is smaller than Naoya Inoue, fights at a lower weight class himself. So if they could find a perfect catch weight or a perfect weight one day, I think that could be one of the biggest fights that we ever see in this modern day era in boxing today. So that's one fight. Another possible opponent would be Nakatani. A lot of people view Nakatani as a top 10 pound for pound fighter. Another fighter that fights a lower weight class, fights at the bantamweight division. This is a fight that's starting to be rumored for at some point to happen in 2026 if Nakatani and Naoya Inoue can keep up what they're doing. They're on a collision course to possibly fight as early as 2026 in Tokyo, Japan. And last would be Nick Ball. I know Nick Ball has been teasing this. Nick Ball is an undefeated fighter. That could be another fight that Naoya Inoue has in 2026. Nick Ball fights at the featherweight division. That is the highest that Naoya Inoue said he would go up in weight to fight a particular opponent's at. So that's another realistic fighter that Naoya Inoue could be on a collision course with. I think a Nick Ball and Nakatani fight, those two fights are really realistic to happen in 2026. I think a Bam Rodriguez fight will eventually happen before those two respective fighters eventually retire from the sport of boxing. But man, all three of those fights are absolute cinemas waiting for us to happen. Naoya Inoue is an incredible fighter, and I tip my hat off for what him and Cardenas did last night, and you got to put that in the conversation as an early fight of the year candidate. I know that last weekend that Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn had one hell of a fight, but I think this fight just surpassed it. And I have to say right now, early in 2025, that this Naoya Inoue and Cardenas fight was the fight of the year. But that is my fight summary on this fight that took place last night for ESPN Top Rank. That is all the time I have for you guys today. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. This is your host, Thomas Tyree, signing off. And I'll see you guys on next week's episode.